What's good? It's your boy Fanon. Hey, thank you for returning to the channel, subscribers. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we drop new videos. And thank you to everybody that supports the channel on Venmo, Super Chat, Patreon. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. Just got off of a live stream. Shout out to Beverly Rose Boxing. If you're not subscribed to Beverly Rose Boxing, please subscribe to Beverly Rose Boxing. New up and coming channel closely associated with the LDBC, and we always should be trying to support as many women in the sport of boxing, and definitely in this YouTube boxing conversation as we can. But just left her live stream where we dealt with this subject of of Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua, the Deontay Wilder, and all the nonsense. And it's so ironic that right after, getting out of that, actually, it's probably still going on at the time of the making of this video, but an article comes out of Sky Sports and Eddie Hearn. I think he tried to break his own record of the most lies you can tell in one breath. And I'm like, man, I'm feeling sorry for these Anthony Joshua fans that believe Eddie Hearn, because Eddie Hearn don't believe what was coming out of Eddie Hearn's mouth, man. Okay. He doesn't believe it. And he's just relying on the fact that there are people that will, like, I think that's P.T. Barnum said that there's a sucker born every day. Man, this dude is just going to say whatever he has to say, man. And so this one that he comes out today in an article, it's entitled, Deontay Wilder Does Not Want Anthony Joshua Fight, Believes Eddie Hearn. It's so blatant in what he says, and it's on Sky Sports, that it has, to me, I now understand that this guy's just trolling. He's just trolling. He's going to do what he wants to do, and it don't matter what comes out of his mouth. He's going to do what he wants to do. And so for the people, the only sad thing for me is the people that after having listened to this guy, on the live stream that I was on, listening to how he was regurgitating the things that have been said by Eddie Hearn, I thought to myself, man, dude, I wonder if Eddie Hearn listens to people talk like that and then just himself is like, looks at his dad, he's like, dang, Dad, you're right. They'll believe anything. God, dog. I mean, I guess you're right, Dad. I just keep on going with it and they'll believe it. And yeah, there's a sucker born every day, man, because trust me, I just got off a live stream with one for a minute. But listen to this back-to-back-to-back lie. It's back-to-back-to-back. I'll go through the article. Deontay Wilder does not want Anthony Joshua bout, believes Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn has urged Deontay Wilder to stick to facts. After the American questioned why the unification bout with Anthony Joshua had not been signed. The American WBC champion is yet to sign a contract for a bout with Joshua for all the heavyweight world titles, despite being sent terms by Anthony Joshua last week. Now, mind you, this came out today. This is July 24th, and this came out at 7:30 p.m. in Great Britain. So I guess that's maybe 1:30 here where I am. WBC champion, the American WBC champion is yet to sign a contract for the bout with Joshua for all the world titles, despite being sent the terms by Hearn last week. The Matchroom Boxing boss has responded to criticism from Wilder about the ongoing negotiations with both teams. Let's stick to the facts. We made them an offer firstly, and they didn't reply. They made us an offer. We asked to see the contract. They refused to send one. We made another offer. After nearly 4 weeks, they accepted and asked for a contract, which we sent to them. If they want the bout, they will sign it. Wilder had previously labeled himself as a true champion, insisting he would be willing to sacrifice immediate rewards in order to make a bout go ahead. Hearn, though, is unsure of Wilder's mindset, while admitting the WBA are in the frequent contact about the mandatory title defense against Alexander Povetkin. I can't quite make out whether people are lying to Deontay Wilder about the negotiations or if he's just completely deluded. I saw an interview with him yesterday that he said he's actually two people, Deontay Wilder and the Bronze Bomber, so I'm siding with deluded. It's not complicated. We've set out the terms of the deal. We put it in a contract and sent it to him. And now he's had the contract a week. We're getting calls from the WBA on a daily basis asking what happened. There's an absolute zero urgency from Deontay and his teams other than posting silly Instagram videos. The proof is in the resumes. At this stage, I believe Deontay and his team don't want the bout. Okay, now for the record stories he told in a row, and he starts it off with, "Let's stick to the facts." Yes, you have facts in there, but you left out a whole lot. Like, they made us let's stick to the facts. We made them an offer firstly. They didn't even reply. Let's go through the facts. In November, Deontay Wilder's team and Shelly Finkel reached out to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn did not reply. That was a conversation that took place. That was exposed in a conversation that took place on the Boxing Voice between Deontay Wilder, Eddie Hearn, and Anthony Joshua. However, the first offer was $12.5 million. And they said they didn't reply. Obviously, they replied because they sent you an offer for $50 million. That, my friend, is an answer which says, no, we don't want a $12.5 million flat fee. And there was a whole lot of conversations that took place about $12.5 million flat fee and whether that was 12% of the purse or was not 12% of the purse, whether it was a $40 million bout or was a $100 million bout. You guys should remember all of that. I do. But Eddie Hearn says they didn't reply. If they didn't reply, how did everybody in the boxing community that's paid any attention to this know that the offer was $12.5 million flat fee with no upside? How did Dan Rayfield of ESPN write an article about that saying that they would be professionally irresponsible to have accepted that offer? I think it's fair to say that there was communication and a reply from Deontay Wilder's people to Eddie Hearn about the $12.5 million bout, a $12.5 million flat fee offer. Let's fill in the blanks, right? No, so that's number one. So we got one out of the way. They didn't reply. They had to have replied. They made an offer. We asked to see the contract. They refused to send one. That was the next one. Now, that was the $50 million flat fee, and they wanted to say, hey, are you going to accept the terms or not? Are you going to show me proof of funds or not? And then they said they showed them proof of funds, and they sent an agreement to him. And what did Eddie Hearn said? Eddie Hearn said, yes, we see the contract. We see everything. I don't have to worry about whether the money's there or not. We just got a couple questions about it, right? Just a couple questions, right? One of them was about the venue, right? Where's it going to be? Deontay Wilder wants it in the United States. Anthony Joshua thinks he has the right to have it in the UK. Didn't we listen to that whole conversation? Wasn't there articles on Boxing Scene, on Sky Sports, on World Boxing News? Wasn't there weeks? Wasn't there conversation after conversation? I know I did videos on them. I know a whole bunch of people did videos on them. I distinctly remember Eddie Hearn saying that he thought that he just had a couple of questions. And then after he had said that he never had asked for proof of funds, right? And then, so anyway, that's number two, that they refused to send one. No, they didn't refuse to send one. They said, do you think $50 million is good or not? And then they said, oh, I never asked for proof of funds. We just want to see the agreement. And I do believe they sent them one that Anthony Joshua said that they were looking over and that they needed to know an answer to two questions. So that's another one, right? They refused to send one. We made another offer. After nearly 4 weeks, they accepted one and asked for a contract. Hadn't Eddie Hearn said over and over that multiple times that the deal that they had sent an offer to Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, and that Deontay Wilder, and they were talking every day. They were constantly talking about the agreement. I know I heard that. And that was on 1 week before he then, after they say they accepted, turn around and said they hadn't heard from him. Right? Now, I honestly think that they've now heard from them, right? Didn't they also hear from him when they sent the 2 questions? One being about, it's rumored that it was about the venue. And so then they say, well, it's the last part of this. If they, they asked for a question, we sent from one. If they want the fight, they will sign it. They will sign it regardless of the questions that they asked and what it says. I don't know what it said because they didn't say it. All I know is they didn't say what was in the agreement and what the 2 specific issues were. Other than Deontay Wilder getting out there saying that they don't want the bout. So, I mean, that Anthony Joshua and those guys do not want the bout. It's obvious they don't want the fight. Just obvious. So anyway, man, this is like, I just came off of that stream, Beverly Rose's stream. Please subscribe. Check out Beverly Rose. It's good young new YouTube channel. Definitely get good boxing content over there. Listening to this guy lay out every ridiculous argument that Anthony Joshua supporters have laid out. From he makes 3.5 times the money. You know, Anthony Joshua needs to dictate terms. I mean, come on, man. So, you know, at this point in time, clearly it is what it is. But nobody's buying this. And back to like Eddie Hearn, there are so many blatant contradictions in this that you can tell he obviously made no attempt whatsoever to give an accurate picture of what's going on. And he's just pretty much saying, look, we're not going to make this fight. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to admit that we're the ones that are keeping it from happening. We want our fan base, and he's talking to his fan base. He's not talking to people out there. He's not talking to anybody else other than avid Anthony Joshua supporters when he says this. It's in Sky Sports, and that's the channel that airs on Sky Sports website. That's the channel that airs those bouts. So that's who he's talking to. He's not trying to fool anybody in the United States for the most part with this nonsense because nobody's going to buy it. And he's pretty much just like, I think that quote is associated with or came from P.T. Barnum of Barnum and Bailey Circus, that there's a sucker born every day. And then somebody else said, if you just keep telling the same lie enough, people will believe it. Eddie Hearn has been extremely, extremely consistent in his inconsistencies and his blatant disregard for the truth and blatant disregard for what he has said previously. How can you possibly be serious and say what you said and expect somebody to believe it that really isn't already willing and wanting to believe anything that comes out of your mouth regardless? So look, I think it's safe to say that this boxing match between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua is not going to happen. I would say that I'm holding out hope, but I'm not holding out hope because honestly, I don't even hope that it happens. I don't care. I don't care about the bout happening. I at one point in time was like, man, I really want to see unification for a heavyweight division. I want to see unification in the welterweight division, unification in the lightweight division. And I want to see all these guys get together and settle who's going to be the best heavyweight champion. And the one concrete fact that nobody can deny is that at this present moment, the only bout in the heavyweight division that can unify the titles is Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. That's it. Deontay Wilder cannot face anybody else and unify the titles. Anthony Joshua cannot face anybody other than Deontay Wilder and unify the titles. So to answer the question about who the best heavyweight in the world is right now, if what you consider is somebody being in the picture if they're a champion, the only way to answer that is if Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua fight. The answer to that isn't in who makes the most money, right? Or, who has the best resumes. Like, what did Eddie Hearn say right here? The resumes speak for themselves. No, the resume does not speak for himself because Anthony Joshua's resume does not have Deontay Wilder on it. The proof is in the resumes. No, it's not. It's not. Unless your resume says, if your resume, and first of all, what would a resume have to do with who wants to fight? You're saying Deontay Wilder's looking at the names on Anthony Joshua's resume and that makes him not want to see the fight, not want to take the fight? He's intimidated because Anthony Joshua beat Joseph Parker. Or he beat Carlos Takam and he beat Vladimir Klitschko. That makes Deontay Wilder. If Deontay Wilder didn't want the bout, all Deontay Wilder would have to do is shut his mouth and not say anything. Because Anthony Joshua's not calling him out. That's all he'd have to do. If this was a case of Deontay Wilder not wanting to, really trying to go out of his way to avoid Anthony Joshua, all Deontay Wilder would have to do is close his mouth. Because Anthony Joshua's never asked to fight him. Every bit of this conversation has been at the insistence of Deontay Wilder. He's the only one asking for the fight. The conversation started one step before the line of half-ass truths that Anthony Joshua Eddie Hearn laid out. Let's stick to the fact. We made them an offer firstly. Excuse me. The first person to ask for the fight was Deontay Wilder. The first person to say, I want to fight this fight to happen was Deontay Wilder. That is the fact. And that offer, this $12.5 million offer that he said was firstly, didn't even happen until after Anthony Joshua said, Deontay Wilder said, I'm not going to the UK to call Dillian Whyte's bout unless Anthony Joshua lets me in the ring to call him out and ask for the fight. And what did Anthony Joshua say? He can't get in the ring. That was before this first offer that Eddie Hearn is talking about. But, most people are not going to invest enough time to actually track and listen to what Eddie Hearn says. But Eddie Hearn doesn't expect people to, and Eddie Hearn isn't really trying to tell the truth. Eddie Hearn is trying to protect Anthony Joshua, plain and simple. And he's trying to do exactly what he said 5 days after Anthony Joshua beat Vladimir Klitschko on IFL TV to Kugan Cassius. He has an 8-fight plan. He's trying to plan out 8 years, and he's trying to have this big, long, heavyweight reign for Anthony Joshua, similar to a Vladimir Klitschko's reign. And he's trying to steer him as far away from massive risk as he possibly can. And that's what it is, man. And that's what it's going to be. So I don't really, I don't care about the bout happening, man. I don't care about it. But I will point out this type of foolishness, especially coming off of a conversation where 6 people are on a live stream talking to one guy who literally is regurgitating stuff that he read out of news articles. Stuff like this. Like, I know I'm going to hear this exact quote from somebody. Well, let's just stick to the facts, Fanon. First, Eddie Hearn made the first offer, and then he didn't see the contract. Then we made an offer, but they never really ever sent a contract, Fanon. And then because they didn't hear from him, then we said, we really tried to push it, and we sent them a contract without any conversations having taken place. Deontay Wilder's just been silent as a lamb, but yet he's yakking all the time. It's just foolishness at this point. Anyway, man, it is what it is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.